All right. Hey there. So I haven't made a YouTube video in a while. Today I'm going to attempt to crack open a whole can of worms, and we're just going to sort of see what happens. I have this little card here with lots of points that maybe I'll get to. Really, okay. If you are new to my channel, hi, nice to meet you. My name is Meghan LeVota. I've been making YouTube videos since 2015. 2017, I got into it a little bit more, but most of my videos have been about personality type. Now, you probably know about the MBTI, which is the more popular understanding of the 16 type theory. And yeah, when I first started making videos, I was like, yes, this is the MBTI. Then the more I went down the rabbit hole, it's like Jungian personality theory, psychological type, all this stuff. And you see, this brings me to a major point. Personality, what is it we're even talking about here? The personality community is so fragmented. So I'm gonna get to that. And everything's fragmented, really, right now. Information is fragmented. So every single online community is incredibly fragmented. Every single real life community is really fragmented. This isn't new. Really, what I want to talk about in this video is just some trends that I have been observing. I just want to get some things off my chest. I want to announce a couple of things. One, I recently started a Substack. I'm going to start posting articles there. You can also sign up for that as like a newsletter. I posted my first little newsletter type-ish article yesterday, so that will be linked below. I'm also working on season 2 of my podcast, Psyche Design. So, but anyway, what I really want to talk about here today is that I've been making videos here for a while, and the landscape of YouTube has changed dramatically. And the landscape of how we consume information, politically, economically. And so I just want to sort of share some thoughts on that. So the title of this video, I mentioned Armchair Psychology. So here I am sitting in my armchair, and I want to talk about the fact that whenever I first started this YouTube channel, it was because I was very interested in learning about personality type theory, and I was very involved in the forums, and people online would share videos and talk about themselves and then put their type as the title of the YouTube video. And I went insane watching these videos. And back then, if I searched ENFJ, for example, almost all the videos I saw were just someone talking into a camera. They weren't edited. There wasn't like definitions. People weren't going on YouTube to learn. People were going on YouTube to, I don't even know, like it was like a bunch of homemade videos. Like really all of the videos I watched that helped me just as I was learning type, I just wanted to see other people speak about themselves in their own words. It was just people turning on their webcam. And so that's what I did. And then you see, I was working as a journalist at a startup, and I started to notice, like, basically, I was writing articles at work that were getting less views than my YouTube videos. And I had more fun making YouTube than I had at work. And so I was like very naturally like, oh man, I would love to be able to create my own content. And see, the thing is that I graduated with a journalism degree. And so I'm interested in creating content. But anyway, back to the point. This world has blown up to where now you cannot go on social media, Instagram, Twitter, now TikTok. I don't even really use TikTok. I do have an account with some videos, but I don't look at it. You can't go anywhere without having self-help information just in your face, basically. Whenever I was starting to make videos, like I wasn't even familiar really with the concept of like psychologists making content and sharing mental health advice and all this sort of stuff. And now, really, what I want to talk about here today is that there's a lot of ethical challenges with this. And I think that there's a lot of cultural problems with this. And part of the reason why I have been unsure really how I want to show up on here, and I've been off, I haven't been making as many videos in the past several months, is because I'm just trying to figure this out. Because there's a lot that I see that I find harmful, that some of it we can argue is due to malicious intentions, but a lot of it's not. A lot of the harm in like the culture of everybody sharing self-help and everybody sharing pop psychology, mental health tips, a lot of it is people just trying to help people and just trying to share what works for them. But as I mentioned, communities are very fragmented right now. The way that we receive our information is very fragmented. And so a huge problem that I see is that there's so much information out there. And then we have to trust our discernment to figure out what we believe. And I think that part of the problem that's happening is that you would think that so much information being available at your fingertips would help us with our discernment. And maybe it has in some ways, but I also think that there's a pressure. People feel a pressure to have a hot take, to have an opinion. And it feels as though if you want to share something, like everyone is thinking about everything they share as content. And before, people were sharing socially. Now it feels so much more people are sharing as a package of content. And the problems that come with that is that people can feel pressure to make it a hot take. You could add more conflict that really is there. You can inflate your knowledge, or you can push yourself to a conclusion that maybe you shouldn't be making. It seems like it's hard these days to not know the answer, or to ask questions, or to just share what's on your mind. It seems like it's really gotten into the culture that that add value. Like every piece of content you share needs to be adding value. Think about your audience. Think about what you want them to get from it. And it's interesting because then now, if you're scrolling social media, if you're scrolling YouTube, all you see is people who are making things with something in mind in which they want you to have a specific call to action in mind that they want you to do. And then if people want to participate in the conversation, then there's pressure to turn yourself into an influencer, turn yourself into a content creator. And in order to join that conversation. And then, our egos are involved, because it's like, I want to feel like I'm smart. I want to feel like I have something to share. And so, yeah, I want to join the conversation. But then here's what's hard about this is that people should feel like their thoughts matter and that they can share without feeling like it only matters if they have come to a firm conclusion. Because basically what I think happens is that people are very overwhelmed with the conflicting information. And so that brings me to personality type, is that, and I'm just throwing this out there. I don't really think that a lot of this is really not, a lot of this, well, you can't just sort out the good apples from the bad apples. Like, that's not how you solve problems. And that's not really, it's not really the solution. Like, it's not really what's going on. Like, this is a bigger, just a lot of technological changes. I think that we're going to need to take some time to learn and adapt to how do we as a species literally thrive with all of these new technologies. How do we make sure that we're using them in a way that's going to help us thrive? Because these technologies are very, very powerful. And so, with the topic of individuation and connecting to yourself, self-growth, it's like we know how easy it is. We all have our ego part of us. And then if you want to call it your higher self, or Carl Jung just refers to it as the self, like who you really are. There's all these competing aspects to our psychology here. But anyway, I feel like things are really fragmented. And if you want to learn something these days, let's say you want to learn about psychology, or maybe you want to talk about psychology, or maybe you are going through a hard time and you want to consume content about psychology. What do? Well, you're basically just sort of thrown out into the wilderness. And what often happens is that the people who sound the most confident and who tell you that they have the answer are going to be the ones that people listen to. The things that seem the clearest to understand, and the things that seem the clearest, like they have an answer for you, that's just going to be the easiest. But the thing is think about it from this angle. Think about the fact that it's becoming more and more commonplace for basically most of the content that we consume to be made by people that have an intention in mind of an action that they want you to take. And, I think that the younger generations, especially Gen Z, like knows this and is very rebellious in this way, and is not going to do necessarily what an ad tells them to do. And it's funny because, okay, a couple things I'll say is that, I graduated with my journalism degree in 2016. So it was like Trump just got elected. So much was happening with news. A lot of people weren't trusting the news. There was a lot of arguments about what the news could say. And there was a huge rush of content marketing. I started doing freelance content marketing as a journalist looking for work, because so many businesses, especially around 2016, were like, we need to start thinking like a media company. And we've seen that blow up. Now, 2022, most businesses are thinking like a media company. And that's a common thing I see whenever I've gone on interviews and whenever I've looked at potential jobs. A lot of people are interested in the journalism degree in particular because businesses want to emulate journalists, and they want to figure out how they can spread information that sounds factual and is informative. But the problem is when you're doing that for marketing, you got to make money from it. And, I've worked in this industry. I've worked in digital marketing my whole career, as well as having YouTube, as well as kind of basically being a small influencer myself. And so what I want to say with this is that most of the content that people, that we read these days, like, we're familiar enough with how this internet thing works, and people have shared enough best practices that people are spreading these tactics. And there's tactics everywhere. Like, you can Google how to be a YouTuber, how to be an Instagrammer. People want to be these, like, little kids are growing up wanting to be an influencer, which is crazy. Like, even whenever I first started my YouTube, like, there were people like Jenna Marbles and Miranda Sings. They were just, I figured that was rare. And I mean, it is now. I feel like it's so weirdly easy to be an influencer. It feels so within reach that everybody wants to be one. And here's the thing. There's not even a problem with the fact that some people are personalities. Like, we've had that for a while. Like, Oprah is technically kind of like a personality. There are people that, share media and are a public face in some way, that start conversations. And there's nothing wrong with a society having personalities. But I think that the weird thing about it is that it feels so within our reach that a lot of our moral priorities have shifted, where a lot of people then want to become an influencer. And not just that, but people are treating social media as a way to become an influencer. So not only is the information that we're consuming, most of it is very, very strategic. And like I said, I know because I have worked with companies and I do marketing, and I see how strategic all of the social media posts are, all of the blogs are. There's always like, what is the call to action? What do we want people to do? And I know when I scroll on social media these days, I'm seeing more and more high quality content that was created for social media, which means that most of the things that I'm reading has a very specific action that they want me to take. So anyway, discernment, that's what I was talking about, is if you wanted to learn about psychology, how do you have discernment amongst all of this? And so I think getting connected to our discernment so that we each as individuals can feel like we can filter through all of this mess is really, really important. And I think it's more important than me sitting here and telling you what I've figured out or what I think the answer is. But in terms of psychology, I feel like something that scares me right now, like something that deeply, deeply scares me, is how much pain and change and everything is happening in the world since, the pandemic. There's the economy is really hard. I know a lot of my friends are struggling with, getting housing and health insurance. Things are really hard. I'm, going to turn 28 in a few months. The sentiment that I feel amongst my friends is, how come we haven't been able to get started on life yet? When do I get to live a life? And, that's not new. I'm sure you guys already are familiar with this, but, hold on a sec. And people's insecurities are coming up big time. I think that people have there's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There are people with very real physical insecurities more than ever. If you have any health issue at all, you're probably, wondering about, the state of the virus or whatever, or even, So, but then people are very spiritually vulnerable as well, because no matter where you are right now, we are in a state in which we don't actually know what the future is going to look like, politically, culturally. We don't know. And that means that there's, more possibilities and more innovation potentially, but a lot of people are in a place where it's kind of hard to have hope, and it's kind of hard to see the world through the rose-colored glasses right now, because the reality is, no matter who you are, we are dealing with uncertainty. And when you're dealing with uncertainty, your psyche is going to wobble, react to some extent. And people are realizing that the dreams that they thought that they would have when they were younger might not happen. But the thing is that it's not that your desires won't happen. I'm not trying to be all doom and gloom. The reality is things are going to look different than what we thought. Things are not going in the exact path that maybe we thought it would be. And so a lot of people, way more people are suffering from depression and anxiety. Like, that's growing exponentially. Therapy is becoming so much more socially accepted. But then what? Let's say we all go to therapy. Where are our communities? How do we heal with each other? And so anyway, with all of these things swirling together, like, I think that there's a lot of information out there. There's maybe more therapists than there used to be. I'm not fully sure, and there's more people interested in psychology. And then sharing that information. Some of it's good and some of it's bad. Some of it is twisted and cruel, in this sense of, if you've ever looked into any like cults, yeah, there are some really twisted intentions out there. Some of it's great. Some of it is fine, but just wouldn't work for you. Some of it is okay in some situations, not great in others. And see, that's where I'm saying, like, you have to trust your discernment about what's right for you. But then how does that happen in a world in which we feel pressured that we have to be adding value and having a take in order to even say anything? Where is the space for asking questions? Where is the space for humility? Where is the space for coming together and kind of putting the pieces together? Because what I'm seeing is a bunch of people saying that they know the answer and trying to get a little following to basically mirror what they figured out. And so this is how I think the fragmentation is happening. And I think influencer culture doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it is a bad thing if our values are twisting in society to which our need for attention is so high that we'd do anything to get it. And also that our need for answers are so high that we do anything to get them. So that's two things that we could sit with is our need for attention, our need for answers. Part of the reason people need attention is because we don't really have a lot of communities that are nourishing and fulfilling. I think that's a problem. I think people wouldn't feel like they need attention if they felt seen by the people in their life. And people lean on social media for attention and for recognition because often, like I said, the communities like at home or like just politically, socially, communities are feeling very fragmented right now. And so people are clinging to what they perceive to be their people online and hoping that we can find some sort of validation, mutual validation through that sort of shared experience. So what I want to bring up is that, so I was reading Carl Jung, there's a book that has his lectures on modern psychology and how psychology came to be. And what he mentions is that psychology emerges after religion and that the problem of psychology emerges whenever people stopped having religion to, I guess, help them cope with certain things. And I thought that was really interesting to me because it's not necessarily saying that, which you could take the conclusion that this means that we need to go back to religion. You could take the conclusion that this means that we need to be more spiritual. But even if you aren't spiritual or if you don't believe in that, what it really means is that, so the root of the word psyche means, soul, like the word soul, which typically would have a religious connotation, is kind of included in there. And so, but really, whether you're religious or not, there's something about the psyche and the soul that is a little bit mysterious. And religion has historically helped people cope with uncertainty. Well, right now we have a lot of uncertainty. And so what I'm seeing is that online, there is so much pressure for certainty. And then there are so many people so willing to have attention and to find answers that they will tell you that I have the answer. And then people who are uncertain and vulnerable are saying, yes, I want the answer. I want it to be easy and I want it to be given to me immediately. Here's the thing. It doesn't really help you. It doesn't really work that way. And I think that the problem is that there's been so much of a pressure of, if you're creating content online, that you need to make it easy, quick. You have to make it, here's your call to action. Here's how I'm going to help you. Let me tell you who I am. Let me tell you what to believe. You have to try and get in there and get their attention. And I'm going to reject that because I think that people want something real. And I think that people know, I don't know how I want to word this. I think that really what I'm saying is that so many emotional needs are not being met, that in combination with tools and also, or like new tools as in technology. Our needs not being met, these technological tools that are new, that we're still figuring out how do we use. It's like a lot of people are having existential crisis because things are speeding up. We don't know where things are going. Whether you're conscious of this or not, if you are dealing with any type of emotion that you don't know how to process on your own, it's likely due to a lot of these factors. There's probably so many collective factors that are influencing you that you might not be aware of, because I think part of what can cause a lot of anxiety and depression type of stuff is if people sit around thinking, I should be happy, but why am I not? I have all these things, but I'm not, or I should be having these things, but I'm not. And the reality is that so many of those rules just don't apply anymore. And we're moving through this weird, confusing tunnel, and whatever, like the times we're in, we don't, like I said, we are currently building our future. So there's a lot of pressure for certainty. How does religion help people cope with uncertainty? A lot of it is through faith and surrender. It's not through, there's also dogma. There's also, there's also a lot of forced certainty and dogma. But, Carl Jung basically is made the point that it's like, there's so much uncertainty and mystery just about being human in general, that once people started to break away more from religion, there started to be more psychological problems, and then people needing help with those psychological problems, because instead of going to a priest, they would go, where would they go? And so, early psychologists they learned from philosophers in order to kind of help build this case of how do we start to use reason in order to make sense of these mysteries. So the mystery is inherent. We are in it right now. And I would argue that we're kind of going through a spiritual crisis or right now as humans, or you can call it a crisis of the psyche, or a psychic crisis, or something in the air, whatever you want to call it, a crisis of mystery. Comment below what phrase you like the best. But it's just making me think, like, Carl Jung was more influenced by spiritual stuff than Freud. And I think that I personally am more on the side of wanting to bring spirituality into this stuff. But I think whether you do or don't, people should have the freedom of what they believe. But whether you do or don't, there's got to be some element of mystery included in this whole conversation. Because I think that modern psychology is slicing and dicing a mystery and human life so much, to the extent that everything's boxed up in these categories, that I think it leaves people really just craving meaning like never before. And that's why I think people are very attached to certain labels, because the label contains so much meaning. And in psychology, with so much effort towards scientific, wanting to be really logical and rational and left brain and put things into categories, we put so much effort behind that we want it to feel like it has all this meaning for us. And so really what I am seeing is this crisis of meaning, and that the reason why there's so many like cute Instagram graphics with thoughts about attachment style and quotes and all of that stuff is because people so desperately want meaning. People are dealing with a lot of mental health issues, but at the same time, there's more and more content out there from people who maybe are dealing with these problems themselves and maybe don't have the answer, but are trying to act like they have the answer. Or like, really, I'm saying like, how do we have more room for like curiosity around here? Like, can we make it like a Socratic seminar? I don't know. But it's like, there's a lot of vulnerable people. There's a lot of pressure to act like, and really, I'm just seeing a lot of like, people being exploited. And really, I don't even know, like, trying to wrap up this video because I could talk forever about this stuff. And really, it all swirls together into the stuff that I want to start talking about more on my Substack and make more videos about, like, in addition to type. Really, I'm just thinking, how does type fit into this? Because I think that our psyches are sensitive, and we need to be sensitive to them if we want our mental health to thrive. And a lot of what I'm seeing is not very sensitive. It's very quickly find the answer, here you go. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like, I think we're kind of killing the mystery of it. And if we kill the mystery, then what does the person do if they don't know the answer to the mystery? If they haven't accepted that there is a mystery, if they haven't surrendered, if they haven't had faith, they don't have hope. What does a person do? Well, what do you do when you're just sitting with this fact that you think you know the answer, but then what do you do with it? I mean, like, where's the meaning in that? You're still looking for meaning. Like, let's say you go to therapy every week and you know when you are taking medicine, you know the labels, you know all of that. Are you finding meaning? And so I'm not saying that therapy can't help you find meaning. I'm just saying that simply knowing the answer is not the same as finding a meaning behind that and being able to open your heart and really embrace the beauty of life, even if you don't know how things are going to go. So anyway, I did a talk at the International Association for Psychological Type, where I talk about some of the ethical problems and how I see type being used online and some potential opportunities. And I want to like maybe make an article about that soon and a video about that soon so we can continue this conversation here. But these are some of the things in my mind. I've been trying to figure out, do I even want to contribute to all this noise? I don't want to cut through the noise. I don't want to. And that's the thing. The other thing about attention, if you get attention as an influencer, it's not really fun either. I have a very love-hate relationship with attention. And I feel like the more I put myself out there, the more I also want to hide at the same time. And so, because it's very sensitive to do. And so I'm trying to figure that out as well. And I think that honestly, being more, I'm trying to figure out, really, I'm seeking fulfillment and I'm seeking meaning, just like I was talking about with everyone else. I was meta-analyzing everything going on. I'm in the same boat. I'm seeking fulfillment. I want to feel nourished. I want to feel meaning. And a big thing I'm realizing is that I don't know how to put that into words, but I want to make things that feel more fulfilling to me. And but I want to make things, and I don't want to add any harm to what's already being done. And so that's what I was going to say is that, oh yeah, a lot of this psychological knowledge is like incredibly, incredibly powerful, and people can use it in very negative ways. People can use it to manipulate as well. It's not only being used for self-help as much as we would like to believe. Knowledge of personality type can just as easily be used to make excuses for yourself or to shut yourself down from being open to other people. And it can make you feel really jaded and really alone. There's a lot of negatives that can come, and we need to be sensitive to those. I don't know if it makes sense to just throw out the information and just be like, okay, go for it. Now, okay, good job. Now grow. I don't know if that works. And from what I've seen from a lot of people's experiences, I don't feel like it's working. Not just with personality type, but with a lot of other psychology stuff. I think that it can make people feel like they're the only ones that doesn't get it. When what I see is a lot of people trying really hard to get it and show that they get it. And then everybody feeling isolated in their confusion, isolated in their mystery. What if we talked about the mystery? What if we recognize that we don't know? And so yeah, like I just think a lot of people, and the same thing's happening with astrology and Enneagram sort of stuff. You guys, this is really sensitive. And so let me know some of the things that you've noticed or some of your concerns in the comments. I'm going to just end this here. It doesn't feel like a great way to end it, but I don't think that there's a perfect way to. So I'm just going to end it here. And thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to my Substack. Give me ideas of what you want me to talk about on Substack. I am going to be in season 2 of Psyche Design. I'm going to be going over like the functions and personality type stuff, and I'm going to be interviewing people. And so if you're just here because you want to learn about personality type, I do plan to have that stuff as well. But to me, I also want to be talking just as much about how should we be applying and integrating this information. What is the process of reckoning with this information feel like? Because I know for me that I've known that I have ENFJ type preferences for over 10 years now. And I can tell you that there are ways that I was thinking about ENFJ that were helpful for me, and there were things that were harmful for me. And ideally, if you are using type, it should be a tool to help you find yourself. It shouldn't be a personality or like, you shouldn't make personality your whole personality, is what I'm saying. It shouldn't be like a made for you, done for you self or identity, because you are more than that. And I feel like I've used this information to help me really figure out my tendencies and also, I think, transform. And, Carl Jung talks a lot about transformation. And I think holding the opposites together, recognizing opposites, gaining perspective helps you transform, helps you become bigger than just a personality. And I think that's what we all want to do. I think that we all want this type of individuality, this sense of fulfillment. And I'm trying to get there myself. And I just want us to get there. So anyway, thank you for watching this video. And yeah, I look forward to hearing your thoughts as well. So feel free to leave. I get a lot of people being like, sorry that this is such a long comment, but I'm telling you, I enjoy that. And I'm a verbose person myself. So thank you for listening.